to another episode of my adventures reading contemporary romance. These adventures occur almost exclusively on an e-reader device. Why? Because I hate romance book covers with a passion. They're mostly half-naked men with parts of their heads cropped off and abs chiseled in places I don't know why you'd even want abs, which is why today's selection of books is kind of interesting. There's not a single cover of this type. Don't get me wrong, these covers are not great, but it was kind of a pleasant surprise. I mean, in the first one, at least he has his shirt on, though he does kind of look like a Ken doll with a human face photoshopped on, so, well, let's just look at it. My kind of wonderful book 2 in Jill Shalvis' Cedar Ridge series. This came out in late 2015. I enjoyed book 1 of this series, so I was excited when book 2 came out. Bailey Moore has survived cancer, and with her second lease on life is determined to travel the world. Then she meets Hudson Kincaid, who is the head of ski patrol for his family's ski resort. She's hired to paint a mural for said resort. Sparks fly, but he's got roots on the mountain and she's determined to see the world. I read this in one sitting. It was cute. Has Jill Shalvis written better books? Yes. Is it still a pretty dang good book? Hell yes. In addition to Jill Shalvis, I have one more author who I am on a quest to read everything she has ever written, and that is Nalini Singh. So I reached back into her catalog to her Harlequin days for craving beauty. The leading lady in this is from a super conservative fictional country, and he's American and is physically scarred. He negotiates with her father to marry her without courting her. She's understandably kind of pissed at this, and he just thinks that he's respecting the traditions of her culture. Yeah, this was ridiculous. Not recommended. There's glimmers of the author here she would become, but the story itself was highly misguided. Causing Havoc, SBC Fighters Book 1 by Lori Foster. I will give this book kudos for the fact that the cover artist or the author did not give in to the, overwhelming pressure from the publisher to put a half-naked martial artist on the cover. It would seem to be begging for it, but fortunately, they resisted. Anyway, Fighter Dean was separated from his sisters at a young age, reunited now that they're adults. He's not sure he wants to be reunited, but he decides to stick around to keep his sister from marrying a sleazeball. Plus, within like 24 hours of showing up in town, he falls into bed with her best friend, so there was that going on for him too to stick around. And this book was okay. I wasn't a fan of the romance. He's supposed to be getting to know his siblings, but 5 minutes in, he's trying to sleep with their best friend instead of getting to know them. And she just kind of goes along with it. I don't know, it was just odd to me. I just think the author could have finessed how the relationship fit in here just a little bit better. I read the first book in Nora Roberts' Born Kankanen trilogy, Born in Fire. And again, kudos for another romance novel that does not have overly photoshopped pecs on the cover. Nora Robert really likes to make series about siblings, and it's even better for her if she can base them out of Ireland. This is not the first book of hers with this setup, but of that Nora Roberts subgenre, this was a pretty good version of it. I liked it better than the others that she has done. Margaret Mary is a glass artist in rural Ireland. Rogan Sweeney is a Dublin gallery owner who is dead set on making her rich and famous. I really enjoy the characters in this one. Nora Roberts nicely filled in personalities for the archetypes of the recalcitrant artist and the suave, business-savvy city slicker. All in all, if you enjoy Nora Roberts' even-keeled, soothing writing style, this is a good book to pick up. Princess in the Iron Mask by Victoria Parker, a Harlequin romance which I was really hoping would live up to the promise of the Harlequin brand, which is truly ridiculous, over-the-top, telenovela-style melodrama. But sadly, this book failed to go big enough. Our princess gets really sick as a kid, and her royal parents essentially exiled her to a country where she could get medical care, but they never really visited her or anything. So she's obviously kind of ticked off by that and defies them by becoming a scientist when she grows up instead of a proper princess. Lucas Garcia is dispatched by the royal family to bring the errant princess home. I mean, She doesn't even wear a mask once in this book. I feel really cheated. I guess it's supposed to be a metaphorical mask, both because of the skin condition she had as a kid, but also because of the defense she keeps up against the world as an adult or something. This is Harlequin. Forget this subtle illusion crap. She should have been wearing a huge, ridiculous mask at some point in this story. Come on! I read the third book in the Fool's Gold series by Susan Mallory, Finding Perfect. This one is about Pia, whose friend dies of cancer, and instead of willing Pia her cat, as expected, instead Pia is bequeathed her frozen embryos, and she has to decide if she's gonna, well, birth them. 3/4 of this was really pretty good. The ending was a tad bit predictable, but overall it was still an enjoyable read. The 7th book in the McCarthy's of Gansett Island series, Longing for Love. Let's talk about this cover. While the Photoshop work on the cutout here is shabby to say the least, and he is naked, at least his chest doesn't look photoshopped with extra chisel, so it's still better than most. In this one, Tiffany is finally divorced and has decided to open up a boutique lingerie and sex toy shop, which doesn't go over very well with the more proper elements of the island. Blaine Taylor is the police chief who has to deal with the resulting brouhaha. I'm starting to see a familiar pattern for how I interact with this series. In each book, I hate the current male lead. He's just usually a jerky McJerkface, but then once he's not the star of a book, I start to like him because Marie Force makes him seem more sweet. I swear every single book in the series follows this pattern. So for this book, I was really not on board the Blaine Taylor train, but I'm sure in the next book, once we've moved on to whatever next jerkface lives on the island, I'll start to like the now surprisingly less jerky sweet guy that Blaine will have become between this book and that book miraculously. So I liked the first book in the Chocolate Lover series by Tara Sivak because even though I felt she relied too heavily on shock humor for shock's sake, I loved the male lead and thought that most of the book was really quite endearing. But then I picked up book 2, Futures in Frosting, and the author decided to throw out anything endearing and just make the book a long series of dirty jokes, drunk and embarrassing moments, and as many shocking things as she could cram between the covers. And I am done. And I'm also a little scared of the sinister smile she has on this cover, but at least there's no naked men on the cover, so win, I guess? Okay, so any series that the first book you're like, oh, okay, not the best, not the worst, but if book 2 avoids doing X, this series might actually turn out pretty good. And then book 2 is all XXXXX. And then what did you do? Did you, like me, swear off the series forever or give it another chance? And any romance book covers you've been pleasantly surprised in their restraint from liberally applying half-naked male torsos to everything in sight.